So the best gift humanity received this past year, I would suggest, were the images from the James Webb Space Telescope, released back in July. You'll see one of them on the cover of your bulletin today. These images revealed a universe unlike anything we had until now imagined or seen. The images of distant stars and galaxies and the exponential math that followed immediately humbled any estimates of the scope of the universe, the quantity of galaxies, stars, dark matter, and the rest of it. The images were, to me at least, awe-inspiring, gorgeous. Never before had we seen the points of distant stars, or the shape of gravitational pull on an entire galaxy. Never before had we seen glowing walls of gas of star formation, appearing like sand dunes or oceanic waves against the dark sky. I remember when I moved to Montclair after a decade of living in bright and dense urban areas. I could see the stars. I had forgotten that they were there, really. All that time, they were there, hidden in plain sight. The star the Magi observed at its rising has been hotly debated over the centuries. Was it an ordinary star that only the Magi realized was pointing towards something or someone extraordinary? Or was it in and of itself an astronomical phenomenon that would have been observable to the common eye? Some propose that it was an alignment of the planets Jupiter and Saturn. Others suggest that a supernova occurred, where a star violently exploded and gave off enormous amounts of light for weeks or months at a time. And at least one theory posits that it could have been Halley's Comet. Not being an astronomer, and having no external record from the time to match up against Matthew's Gospel, all we can do is speculate. But seeing the images from the James Webb Space Telescope reminded me that even the witnessing of extraordinary astronomical events requires interpretation. Standing outside on Cooper Avenue, I can just about most days point out the Big Dipper, only after having been taught to look for it. I can usually tell the difference between an airplane and an ordinary star. And sometimes I can even find one or two other common constellations. But beyond that, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I've never gone out of my way, gotten up in the middle of the night to see a lunar eclipse or meteor shower or chase the northern lights. And if I were to notice something unusual in the sky, under what circumstances could I imagine that it was a divine signal of something specific happening here on Earth that would change the course of my life? Whether or not anyone else noticed this star over Bethlehem, it was only the Magi who could interpret it. Only the Magi who followed it. Only the Magi who were transformed by it. Not even Herod, with the resources of a great kingdom and scholars who understood its meaning. Not even the chief priests and scribes left their posts to see what bearing it might have on ancient prophecies. So Epiphany, a festival day in the Christian tradition, is a day in which we mark God's showing forth, God's revelation to humanity. And we celebrate that the Magi not only saw the sign of the star, but that they understood it. Then they followed it and were transformed by it. The James Webb Telescope images are amazing, cool to look at, but only in learning about what the images captured do we understand just how amazing they really are. The deep field image on the cover of the bulletin represents thousands of galaxies, each that contains possibly 100 billion stars. We can try to comprehend that these images are actually from thousands of years ago because of the speed at which light travels and the distance it's traveling. And even more phenomenally, because of the images captured of these most distant galaxies, scientists might be able to develop more accurate models of galaxies that existed at cosmic spring, when galaxies were sprouting tiny buds of new growth, actively interacting and emerging, and had yet to develop. Ultimately, in other words, Webb's upcoming observations will help better understand how galaxies form and grow in the early universe. Will they see or help us imagine all of the stars at their risings? And why should we as Christians spend a Sunday morning pondering these images? After all, I am the last person qualified to be offering an astronomy lesson. Theologian Martha Moore-Kaish observes that looking up and out makes us wonder about ourselves and about God. There is something about seeing these images that causes us to want to turn to one another and say, "Did you see that?" There is something about the sense of awe, the vastness captured by these images, that has the power to grab our attention, point us toward the holy, and change us. Awe puts us in a place of humility, reminds us of our smallness, or at least the smallness of our goals in association with something much larger than ourselves. The comprehension we gain when those dots on the page become stars and galaxies far, far away changes our relationship to ourselves, makes us ask who we are, what we're doing here, why and how we are here. In other words, it makes us wonder about whose we are, what our purpose is, and who created us. Even an elementary understanding of astronomy seems to beg us to wonder about God and humanity. For those who wonder how faith and science can be complementary understandings of the world, I might suggest that knowledge and curiosity about creation and the cosmos deepen our sense of mystery and awe, our sense of gratitude to the Creator and creation. In 1559, John Calvin wrote, in reference to the new and emerging field of astronomy, that whenever and wherever we cast our gaze, wherever you cast your eyes, there is no spot in the universe wherein you cannot discern at least some sparks of God's glory. And so if the awesomeness of the stars makes us wonder about God and humanity, puts our lives in perspective, it can also equip us to do something differently. Research shows that an experience of awe, the creation of that sense of smallness of self, drives us towards pro-social behavior, drives us to do something good for someone else. Generosity and altruism are outgrowths of experiencing awe. The Magi observed something awesome. They understood enough to ask more questions, to seek out a greater understanding. And with that greater understanding, they were moved to humility, bowing down before the holy infant. And they were moved to generosity, offering him gifts. But most magnificently, they were transformed by the experience. They returned by another way. What will we do with the images of the James Webb and with our other daily experiences of awe and wonder? Will we barely glance up and continue with business as usual? Or will we allow ourselves to be transformed, to seek understanding, to follow where Christ leads us, to go a new way? As we seek God, as we seek connection with one another, with a sense of purpose and meaning or right relationship and ethical living, we have endless opportunity to be awed. We need only look up, look around, look at the millions of awe-inspiring experiences available to us as humans on this planet in this corner of the world in 2022, 23. Need an editor. Whether we observe the night sky or the softness of the fur of a pet, the beauty of the pattern of frost, or an image on the internet, God is everywhere, all around us, begging us to look, prompting us to realize that we are one small part of creation, and that the opportunity to follow Christ is everywhere and every day, that we can choose at any moment to return by another way. During communion today, you will have the opportunity to pick up a star word on these tables at the front. And if you're online, Kim will gladly share a word for you in the chat if you request it at that time. The idea behind these words is that they invite us to keep seeking God, to keep seeking God's guidance through prayer and intention in the coming year. You may wish to keep the word in your wallet or on your refrigerator or dresser, and ask yourself from time to time how that word is showing up in your life, and how God might be showing up in that way too. You might wish to ask God why that word, or how that word is relevant for your life of faith. You might wish to use that word to meditate on. However you use it, may it serve as a reminder that God is still speaking, and we are still seeking. May it be so.